Freedom 35, 5, 5, 5.
Dude, start the podcast.
Wow.
Welcome, everybody, to Freedom 35ers, Cardano NFT podcast. My name is Tommy. I go by TLWNY.
My name is TJ. I'll go by Lazy T.
And I am the other Tom. I go by Lavish Bear.
And I'm Dave from Derp Birds.
Hey!
Yeah, that worked out well.
That worked out perfect. There we go.
First take, we're done. All right, guys, we're going to go home now.
That's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Surprise guest jumping onto the stream. Some may know him from our chat as Gang Gang. The Derps, the founder, King Derp over here. Dave, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Not much. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. Good to have you on.
Dude, it's been a while since we've had a podcast like pre-recorded podcast guests in a while. We will usually do these live streams, but I miss these because this is where we started from. Like, we always started the podcast. We had guests featured on with these. We would record for 3 hours. We would exhaust you until you fell asleep. We were so much fun back in the day. Nowadays, it's so much different how we kind of evolved this stuff over here. But it's always good to kind of chat in like an unfiltered kind of thing where it's like a little more structured than the live stream. So I appreciate you having you on. And I think every time we've had you on, man, it's been the live streams. And every time we've had you on, Derps have had an incredible little run.
I don't know if it's it's definitely a chicken and egg. I don't know if it's like when things are going really well, I feel a little more confident and I go on shows, or if it's I go on shows and that leads to things doing really well. So maybe we'll find out.
Hey, you never know. Fun. You know, I'm gonna be paying attention to Derps after this. No, I mean, how can you not be paying attention to Derps, really? If you've been in the space recently, at least over the last year, you guys have had an awesome run, and I know we're gonna get into a lot of that tonight. But yeah, tonight will be more like kind of a little overview too. That's why I like doing these. It's not just extreme fun, because I'm sure when you're doing these things, everybody's just grilling you about your project. There's you guys are community members outside of this though too. So it'll be like, hey, I want to talk about something different tonight. So we'll broad topic these things a little bit more instead of just hyper focusing on all the details. So appreciate you jumping on to the show tonight, and we're looking forward to it. It should be a fun one. And then the backstory too for you, man. We got a chance to meet. I don't know if we met on the first CNFT con. Me and TJ are out there. I think we missed you guys, or you were out of the booth when we walked by. But I know that I can't remember it on the first one, to be honest with you, because you guys did that shared booth on CNFTCon in 2022, right?
That's right. Yeah. I don't remember seeing you guys at all, but I wasn't at the booth very much at all that first year. So
I think we walked through when you were gone. You had a game though. You had like a video game, right?
Yeah. We had like a whole like little lounge area set up. We were playing Smash Bros. and
Funny enough, you guys were doing that this year too.
Well, I was gonna ask, are you going to Rare Evo or NFTLV or both? Kind of off the cuff question here.
We aren't doing either officially. I'll be at both, but we're not going to get a booth this year. Like I love the events. I think depending upon like where you're at, like the maturity level of your project, like how old is it, how well known is it, I think it's definitely worth it if you're a lesser known project, because not everyone knows you, and not to flex on anyone, but like everyone in Cardano, like everyone knows Derp Birds. And everyone who's there is from our ecosystem. They're from the Cardano NFT ecosystem. So it's a lot of stress. It's not outrageously expensive. The first year we spent quite a bit more, but in combination with the stress, the costs, the getting married later this year, and everything, all the other live events. I think we're gonna set this one out and probably save up for next year, and maybe break outside of the Cardano space and hit some other event.
But yourself, you said you're gonna go, just at the
for sure. I'll definitely be there. I don't remember the exact dates, but like I'm stoked that they're both in Vegas. Like Rare Evo is normally in Denver, here where I'm at, which is really cool. But I think it's much better to be in Vegas. Like it's just cheaper for people to get out there. It's
You were right about Denver. I was a little let down that it's not in Denver any longer.
I want to go there for sure.
The event space is awesome. Like where they do it, where they were doing it out at Gaylord Rockies. It's like super close to the airport, so it's easy to get there. You go straight to the event center, but it's pricey. It's like expensive to stay there. I from what I've heard from other people, and but it's. I will miss it being here, but kind of stoked that they're both in Vegas. I wish they were just like back to back.
That would have been nice. Yeah, that's kind of tough to be like, hey, I'm going to fly in, and then literally a month later, I'm going to fly in again. But it gets you familiar with it. And that's what I was kind of bringing up too, is we got a chance to meet over at NFTLV this time around. It was cool. It was a good little time out there, and I liked it. I loved just getting to connect with people this year, and the reconnecting, if anything, it felt like more like a networking event in the sense that it wasn't like you said, people knew who you were. It wasn't like you were introducing anybody new. It was just more kind of strengthening some of those relationships you built early on, or like reaffirming some of the people that you've been talking to recently. So
exactly.
Yeah, good though.
It was a little awkward for us in 2023 just because we like our whole marketing thing has always been like so much stuff. And so one of the things that is always a struggle, like someone walks up and like, so what's Derp Birds about? And I think we'll get into that tonight. We'll talk a bit about brand, and it's easier for us to talk about that now, but generally, and one of the strengths I think to Derp Birds is that we do a lot of stuff. And so we sort of are getting to this point where I feel like we have something for everyone. And so it really starts with like, what's Derp Birds about? It's like, well, what are you into? We can start from there. Like, what are you interested in? Like, what part of NFTs do you like? But yeah, it's a tough answer for us.
That's what I was going to mention. I feel like it's really tough is when it's trying to like explain it to someone not in the NFT side. If they have something to relate it to other projects, especially if it's at least on the same blockchain to what they're into or normally familiar with. But outside of that is we've said this before, is just trying to get people even on board with some of the names and things like that. Like if you're within, the Web3 space, you're used to this kind of, I guess, internet, language. But just hearing things like trying to be like, oh, how much money did you say you made on Derp Birds? Like, what was that?
Yeah, there's a ton of challenges. I mean, one, it's the blockchain themselves. Like, I'll go to a party or something, or meet. I've been getting like tabletop gaming lately, which has been a really great sort of outlet. So I've been meeting a lot of new people through that, and it inevitably comes up, and they're like, oh yeah, so of course they know Bored Apes and maybe Pudgy Penguins more these days, but when you tell, they're like, I'll say something about Cardano, and they're like, what's that? Like they're not even aware that there are multiple blockchains, right? It's just like they know of Bitcoin and they know of Ethereum, but this concept that there might be different projects on different chains. Yeah, it's the other challenge is that those larger projects, we were talking about Pudgy a bit before the podcast started. They set the bar. Like what Pudgy is doing right now is what's setting the bar. And so when you meet someone, you're like, yeah, I have this NFT project. They're like, oh wow, you must be like a multimillionaire. Like you guys must have tens of millions of dollars. And I'm like, yeah, not so much.
Not yet.
What blockchain are you on?
Not yet.
We'll get there.
Can I buy your toys at Walmart? Like, I don't buy those penguins. Like, yeah.
Dude, that's such the early days of stuff, and I know we'll touch on that in a little bit as far as like the overall branding side of stuff, because I think I literally tonight was talking about it with my barber. I'm sitting there getting a haircut, and he's like, "Yeah, what's going on with these NFTs? Are they still a thing? Like, that's like the outside perception." And I'm like, well, yeah, you got to look at it more like from like a shareholder kind of perspective. Like you're investing in some of their companies, really what they're at. And these NFTs essentially represent like a shareholder. A lot of them, and the NFT model is evolving into that right now, from the hype speculation, hey, I minted it, it's worth all this money, now sell it, to, hey, I need to hold this, but by holding this, what is this getting me? That model's kind of evolved since then. Well, speaking of NFTs and holding on to them, I think one of the new metas that we've seen kind of, or at least over on the Cardano side, I know it's kind of transcending outside of this as well now, has been the mining meta. And we touched on it on the podcast about, was it 2 weeks ago now, Tom?
We talk about it like every week now is mining.
Yeah, pretty much. And we even maybe mentioned it back in like November last year when you guys, Dave, obviously it was made popular by Goofy Gophers over here on Cardano, and even more popular as far as a sustainable like revenue model, integrating it with the lore of their project with you guys over here with Outposts. And you guys kind of set a precedent, I think, for all other projects to kind of take that Kingdom Trust model and make it your own. Some have done it better than others in a sense. And the way that you guys have done it, I think you guys kind of nailed it, not only on the timing of the actual mining operation that you purchased, but also with the way you guys did it, tying it into your lore. I don't know that anybody will be able to replicate you guys, or even kind of come close to that personally. That's just my like thought on it. You guys, perfect timing, nailed the way that it was, and you guys have done incredibly well so far. But talking about the mining meta for you guys, as far as a sustainable business model without having to, because that's the big thing, right? The NFTs, you sell your NFT to make your money, but once that NFT's gone, that's why people shift focus so much inside the space, because now they need something else to make them money. Well, how about if everybody just stayed and we found a way to continuously make money? And I know, and to introduce you into that, Dave, Kingdom Trust, before Kingdom Trust was ever a thing, you guys were bringing this idea to Gophers to figure out a way to work and get this set up before that even happened, which kind of like pushed them to even get to where they got, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and well said, by the way. I think it is just a tool. It's just a utility. I think on its own, mining is. That's why I'm so glad to see like Gophers even as well, like really dive into the lore. I know they had sort of that backstory with lore, but we've seen them like really explore it more with the tribes.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that adds a lot more depth. We've said, and I think when I was on the show last November, we talked about this, that in order for us to do it, we had a certain set of criteria, and it had to fit the world, the story, the IP. We had to be able to align the characters with it, right? So we had to do them for each of the factions that we have. And so there were a lot of requirements that we had to be able to check off. And when we approach Ryan, as you described there, Kingdom Trust, they had not yet even announced Kingdom Trust. We went to Ryan and we were hopeful that they would partner with us on this. We didn't want to create competition. So we went to Ryan and said, hey, we have this idea. We don't want to create competition with you guys in the space. We'd love to work together. And I'm pretty sure we went as far as to say, is like, if we can't find some partnership here, we might just pivot towards something else. Like we were so adamant on not creating any sort of unnecessary competition in space. And so that's when Ryan was like, you're not going to believe this, but we have this thing that we're working on called Kingdom Trust. And you're right, I don't think it was initially designed. I don't think that they were planning to do something at this scale that we've done. And we've definitely put them through their paces with this. Like we're in their DMs every day, like, hey, API issues, like we need this data. But I couldn't be happier to be working with them and seeing them now. There are other projects who I think have taken sort of notes on what we did, and they're going to GGMC to do the same thing. So I think that the whole conversation around utility is a really interesting one. I think it's really related to this, but when you think about like giving people different reasons to hold, I think utility is important, but one of the things that we've noticed, and it's becoming more evident, is that there's something really powerful around like just blind speculation. Like things have limitless potential, and it does sort of feel like the moment you put a utility, right? It doesn't have to be the only reason for that NFT's existence. Outpost, for example, we've got a lot of stuff going on with Outpost already from day one, from the moment that they minted. We had a lot of cool functionality around them, but people tend to latch onto that one, like what's the most sort of prominent feature of that, and that's how I'm going to measure its value or its worth. And so that's sort of the dangerous game that you play when you get into utility, is like, what's this going to do? People can evaluate it. You see it in other places too, in the fungible token, sort of market as well.
Yeah, Dave, as far as the outposts go, when you guys were getting started, right, you approached Ryan about this conversation. Hey, we would love to do some sort of mining, find some sort of sustainable way with this. You guys already had such a unique community. I feel like when a kind of crazy community at best, especially after like drapes and everything kind of dropped. Like going into Discord, you had to it was kind of scary sometimes. Like, I don't know what I'm going to find in there, but it was just, it was fun. It was a fun time. And can you talk about the kind of the walkthrough? Because was it like an aha moment for you guys to be like, okay, yes, here's a way we can do it. They've got this plan with Kingdom Trust that they're in the works with. There's that problem solved. Now, how do we make it ours? Like, what was that situation like? Because obviously we're watching this trailer in the background, and it looks great. It looks amazing, and it's playing into a lot of the lore in the community that it was built behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it really did feel like, I tweeted about this last week. Like, it was just, there was a lot of luck, right, with timing. Like, we could talk about the cost of miners and how they were just rock bottom when we ordered, but it really did feel as if like so many things came together just at the right time. We just sort of acquired Bajewski, we brought them in on board. We wouldn't have been able to do it without him. Like, obviously, a lot of the ideas that we ended up landing on for Outpost was sort of the culmination of he and I working together from like a product point of view on thinking about how these features would come together. But yeah, we knew like step one, we had everything worked out, this general idea of mining outposts. And that we knew like step one after that would be, let's go work with Ryan from GGMC and find out, can we find some middle ground here to be able to work together? And from there, like I said, everything else came together. We had a set of objectives, like we had some criteria. We wanted to make every single one of the character collections, the Derp Birds, the Preds, the Derplings, the Derp Apes. We had to make sure they fit into this. We had to, as you guys will remember, like we wanted to make sure we found the sweet spot between having it open to non-derp holders versus derp holders, and so finding that like special sweet spot that would benefit both, and we found that, and so it really did feel like we were able to put together like everything that we needed to make this our own, you know, to make it really unique. So yeah, looking back now, you know, there's been a lot that's happened since October when we minted this. We've just passed our 90-day threshold, and honestly, things have been going pretty smooth.
That's one thing we've always said on the show. I know I've said specifically a few times, not like exactly to you, but about you guys, that you guys do really well with pivoting, like, or moving with the space and kind of listening to the community. Because I bet you probably never thought when you started Derp Birds you were going to be into mining where you are now.
I mean, to be honest, when Geek, something that we never like, this is something that the community has been chasing me on recently, that we do a really bad job of talking about, is that we have a large team. And most people are unaware. In fact, last year at Rare Evo in Denver, I was talking to Fets and Junes from Clays, and we were having casual conversation, talking about, you know, what's going on in the space. And June said, and I don't hold this against her or anything, but because if anything, it's my fault. But she was like, so it's just you, right? And then and you have some like contractors. I'm like, oh no, like we have a very large team now. And a lot of people don't know that. It's not something we talk a lot about. But to your point, TJ, like it was actually my co-founder. He goes by Geek, Chapman is what I call him. And he was like, you know, he's like, I've been thinking about this. He's like, I think mining, you know, doing something in mining would be a lot of fun. At that point, we were 18 months without having raised any funding. We just been cruising along and doing our thing. And so I immediately was like, no, I don't know how to make that work with us. Like mining is just not going to work. And that's my typical response is, no way, this is impossible. And then I try to sleep and I can't sleep, and it's stuck in your mind. And we were able to make it work.
Dude, well, you mentioned, like you said, this whole idea came together. You guys were able to actually deliver in a very, very awesome way. If most people, at least if you watch on our channel, are familiar with the Outpost themselves now, these are just showcasing kind of the app right here and what they look like. And it's just very bare bones, I still think, at the moment, for what it is, because there was only one of these structures or out, you know, things there. What do they call them? Fortifiers or they structures? Okay. Yeah, the mining one up right now, and which is really cool, right? We talked about it live. Hey, I can spend Derp token, I can upgrade it in real time. It increases my mining rewards by up to 20%. Looks great, and the community can participate with it, right? I can engage if I don't even own one, and it's a boost for me for doing so. Like, you guys nailed that in such a quick amount of time, by the way. But
dude, when we literally, from the time that Geek said let's do miners, it was just at 3 months. We did, of course, all of the artwork, built everything. All of this worked from day one. Like, from the moment that, I mean, there were some bugs for sure. But in hindsight, you know, like it sucks rushing something out like this. There's so many moving pieces. Like, this plugs into the rest of the ecosystem. There's the blockchain aspect of this. There's the artwork. There was the mint experience. If you guys saw that, like, there was so much work that went into this, and we had it already, you know, on day one for the men's, and we had to rush some things. There were some bugs, but again, in retrospect, it was the way to go, because the prices of miners, you know, like they really started to tick upwards right after we ordered. So I don't have any regrets about that. But this was I remember, like, when we kicked this off, I told my fiance, I told Krista, I was like, I'm basically just going to be, you know, a trash human for the next 3 months, because I'm going to be working until 10 or 11 p.m. and having to get up at 4 a.m. to make this work. And we did. We pulled it off. So
I'm going to be a trash human.
Yeah,
I was. I'm not. I'm ashamed of just how much of a trash human I was.
But hey, the 3 months are over now, right? And you guys. For now, for the start of the 3 months, maybe we'll re-up the contract here. We'll be a little less trashy over these next 3, right?
I'll shower. I'll start showering every day. But this is just a cycle. We launch something, and then immediately, you know, we're on to the next thing. You know, that's always how it feels to be in this space. Like, you're just constantly like, oh, if we just get to this big deliverable, we'll be able to sort of, you know, take a breather. never happens. Like you launch it and then immediately you're on to the next thing. So
but even like as community members of any project, we're always thinking that way too. All right, what's next after this announcement? Like, well, what's next?
There's never enough. Always more.
It's never exactly. Enough. We always want more. So it's funny, as a project, you're already thinking, all right, what are we doing next as a project?
You don't
not good enough. Yep. I love that. But yeah, for you guys, I mean, you put that money up, you put that trust up, you built that community, and then you delivered on what you guys did. Like you said, the timing of the market couldn't have been better for you guys. And the stats really show that over here. You guys ended your first 90 days over here on the 18th, which is 10 days ago from the time of this recording. And to look at the numbers that you guys did with only, and a big note here, is only 10 of your 73 BTC miners, which another amazing part of the timing too, those S21s, you guys were some of the first people to be mining with those. You guys did $108,000, and that's in total sales, total mined, right? Before, amazing, dude. Can you talk a little bit about this? Did this kind of blow past what you guys were thinking, or what were your guys' thoughts on this?
Reaction, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and I have no problems admitting this. Like, I'm not the mining expert. Like for me, it's been learning a lot, and I have been able to learn a lot. But that is, again, not to just keep singing Ryan's praises. Like, that's why it was so important for us to make it work with GGMC, is because we knew this was super complex. There's so many things that we were going to have to learn, and no one can, make the. Oh, I just noticed if I.
That's cool.
I'll do it on the screen. But there's so much to unpack here, so much to learn here, that like we knew we should work with someone else who knew everything about it. And that's why I worked with them. We do have a few people. Shout out to AMJ and May from the Derp Birds community. They're both gopher holders as well. But they are always sort of, they're both like big mining nerds and weighing in and give us some insight on this. But this, I didn't know what to expect, to be entirely honest. Like I wasn't sure. There were some projections and whatnot that have been put together, but I do think we've exceeded what most people thought we'd be able to do in this period. And again, as you called out, Tommy, like we have 10. So we ordered, I think, 158. If my little graph here that I made is right, it's 158 miners. And of those 158, we've only had 95, and we haven't even had 95 on for the whole 90 days. We only got our Bitcoin miners on at the very end of January, and we only have 10 out of 73 of those. So we're still only running at like 60% capacity, like with and then just yesterday we ordered another batch of miners based off the $100,000 of additional miners. So
that's insane to me too.
That's crazy.
That you guys, I love this model, and like I said, shout out to Goofy Gophers for the advising on kind of here's what you guys should recommend. We recommend you guys do based upon our research. I have to say though, I was reading through this because I googled these as soon as when I saw this today. I was like, you spent $100,000 on a total of 4 miners.
Yeah,
how much?
That is the response that, and I'm sure if you scroll down, I'm sure someone has probably commented on there somewhere, because that was the question that came up. I even had the same question because
I have it. Somebody quoted it. I'll grab it here in a sec.
So a lot of the decision making on this is like, obviously we're working with those from the Derp Birds community who are the mining nerds. We talked to Ryan from GGMC, and then we have our own goals, right? Like how aggressive do we want to be versus conservative? And then ultimately, I will weigh in on like what our overarching goal should be, but I'm not particularly interested in like it has to be this miner, or we should mine this particular cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But I had the same response. I was like, wait, and I was like, everyone's gonna say this. They're gonna be like, wait a minute, you guys ordered 4 miners. And so the KS5 Pro there that mines Caspa, I think it was like $45,000.
Looking it up right now. Yeah,
it's pretty hefty. He's a big boy.
Oh, I got it right here for you guys. I was looking the same thing up. Shout out to Malou over the hills when I call him that. Malau.
I even think the number 10 out of 73 is a crucial number people kind of overlook. You only have 10 Bitcoin miners up right now running. That's wild that there's still 63 more to go to turn on.
Especially with those results, because I think all of us, at least on on our show here, all 3 of us were like, all right, when are we getting a F-35 miner? We need to get in on this action. What's going on here?
We'll just go buy a bunch of outposts, and
we mentioned that we're like, hey, we'll just create moon bases. It'll be a little an outpost, whatever you want to call it, over on the moon, something like that. Dude, we're gonna let TJ just come back in here at some point right now.
Oh, we lost him. Cool.
I think it's got to be. He mustn't. Yeah, Tom, you're good to go. Unless we're gonna lose you. No. It just feels like the Avengers, like Infinity War, dude. Somebody snapped you guys, and like TJ's gone. You're gonna go, Tom. We already know it. We were good to go. Dude. Yeah, I'll let TJ jump back in before we officially get these in. Did somebody advise you when you guys were doing this? Like, was this just like, yo, I didn't realize there was like these tank miners right here that just are this expensive to do. Like, wow, did you guys know about these kind of things, or somebody's like, yo, you need to look at these?
So a big favorite of I hope I'm getting this right, but Ryan at GGMC, like, I think they'd been mining Caspa from the start, from the beginning, and it hadn't performed very well until recently, and it started doing really well. So that's been a favorite of his. I'm pretty sure he recommended that when we placed our initial order, and apparently we didn't go with that. So, and I think this one, as you see, it's not available yet. It's going to be released in March. So this will be yet another, like, when you get into that sweet spot of being able to order, and again, we really lucked out with the Bitcoin miners. The new model came out. We were the first in the world, like amongst the first in the world, to be running that new model of Bitcoin miners. And this is a similar situation where like this miner is going to, perform really well. But yeah, I would not have known. That there are these beefy boy, like mega tank miners. But this guy is certainly one of them.
It's crazy to look at too, because I was looking at it, I'm like, yo, it's like $50,000 for one of these things right now. And then you go on to Bitmain and you start looking at the profitability potentially for the year, where you're netting more than what your buy-in is on these things, and it's like, okay, I can understand that from this kind of price point. And then even some of the lower ones right here that are like $30,000 or whatever, it makes sense to me. I get it. And for people who are like,
math. Oh
yeah. You guys can do the math on it. Well, like you were saying, I was looking at that too when I was like, released in 2024, and I was like, yo, that is exactly what happened over on the S21 side, and you guys will be some of the first to get those online, which is a big competitive advantage for a lot of people. So
it's a really big deal, especially on the Bitcoin side. As you guys know, we're coming up on the halving, and again, I'm not the absolute expert on that, but mining difficulty obviously has already been increasing, and then after the halving, just so much more so. And so having last generation miners, like, they basically just immediately stop being profitable. So it's really important to have the newest hardware as possible. And I think, actually, I shouldn't say that, because I don't know if that's something that Gophers have publicly announced. But it's really important to have the latest hardware. And again, we've been so lucky with that on the Bitcoin miners, now with this new Caspa miner. We really lucked out on timing.
I mean, if you'd like to publicly announce it now, of course, sure. Just saying, of course.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part too for you guys too is, like, I know a lot of these people who, I know it was a big thing for Gophers, right? For people who had invested in originally back in like October of 22 with them, to finally get that first payout, right? They took them over a year to get that first payout, and some who may have not done some research on what exactly kind of like payouts would be, we're probably a little let down. They're like, dude, I'm making 8 ADA or maybe 9 ADA on a Gopher for like a 4-1. I spent blah, blah, blah on this. And they're learning about that. And that's fine. You guys were like, hey, how can we get this into the hands of people a little bit sooner? We understand that. And I think we talked about it the first time when you guys were getting ready to release. But now that compounding window is gone, and first rewards are coming out here, hopefully sometime around like early April for you guys. Like, how important it was for you guys to kind of be like, hey, we're going to get back to you guys as soon as we can after we get through our stuff. And was that like a key highlight when you were discussing with Gophers? Like, look, no, I understand how you guys are doing it, but this is the way we want it.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we're able to make that decision fairly independently, because the way that the payouts work from GGMC to us, we're basically free to do that whenever we want to start those rewards. It makes sense in our mind that and I think this is what we said back in October, is that around a month after that 90-day compounding period ends, then we'll start our reward distribution. And for us, it just feels like the right thing to, let's just get it out and running as quickly as possible. For sure, one of the things that we're going to have to combat, there's going to be some FUD for sure that we have to deal with, and the time it's 1 month worth of rewards. And so it's maybe not going to be what everyone's expecting. We have tried to be very transparent. We don't give projections as a team, like on what each NFT will pay out. We put all the information out there. There are people in the community, again, AMJ and May I, who've put together a lot of projections that will show. And we've been very honest and upfront about that. But for us, you know, like if you're familiar with the history of Derp Birds, like we minted in September 2021, floor price fell into the teens, and people wrote us off as being irrelevant and a nothing project. So like whatever, you know, like whatever FUD may come our way around Outposts, you know, once these rewards start, what's important to us is to say, let's make it the best experience we can. Let's do it as quickly as possible. You know, now that we have things ready to get up. And you'll notice, yeah, in the screenshot that Malu has posted, is that, you know, there's no snapshot. If you buy an Outpost 5 minutes before the rewards go out, you get the rewards. Like, we're not trying to like play any of those games or anything. And we just want to, like, your rewards aren't going to expire. You can, you know, come claim them, you know, within a reasonable amount of time. I'm sure we'll have some clause like 2 years or something. But yeah, like for us, it's that's always been the goal, is make things fun, make it as accessible as possible. We all, you know, we have a very large ecosystem, so there are bugs and some UX issues that we'd like to iron out. But in general, our goal is to make things as accessible, as easy, as fun as possible. And when it comes to, you know, the aided rewards, like that's, I can't think of a feature that's more important for us to make as accessible as possible as this one.
Dude, 100%. I know, you know, everybody's going to do their things differently as far as claiming goes. I love that you guys keep it pretty simple. In that way, like you said, if somebody buys into it and it's like, hey, how do I do it? It's like, just hang on to it right before, you know, as long as it's not listed, which I know you guys mentioned that too, where if you got listed assets, those go back to compounding and other things that you guys will be doing too. So exactly. I love that you guys are giving back to the holders, and I think that is we talked about that. I think Tom and me and you did the podcast about the mining meta. Was that if somebody's investing into something like this, or buying one of these, be really knowing what you just do a little due diligence into what you guys are buying, because 100%. you could, and there's plenty of community spreadsheets over in Discord if you guys are really looking out to kind of guesstimate where you guys will be at, especially now that you guys have the data for those first 3 months, without being let down. And you can decide if that makes sense for you. And if you look back at like any kind of traditional rewards or dividends or anything along those lines, I mean, these significantly pay out better percentages if you really want to get into the data with it. But will it make you return your whole entire NFT and then 10x on top of that? No. And that, I don't think they never were intended to do that. At the end of the day, like the core principle of this was to sustain the project without having to milk holders for more funds, keep it a sustainable business model, and at the end, and give back to holders who've invested in the project and the NFT itself. And I think that needs to be highlighted for anybody who's thinking this is a get rich quick scheme.
Well, I think some people too might look at it as like just the one payout and that's it. They don't really realize that it's going to be multiple payouts. It's going to be a recurring, you know, kind of a thing. That's what mining is. It's a recurring.
You mean I got to hold it?
Exactly.
I can't let it go.
Like,
I got to sell it.
Okay, you may make into this time, but you'll make another ADA in X amount of days, and then another ADA in X amount of days. So just a recurring kind of payout for you. Like, people are looking at that as just a one-time thing. Like, no, I'm out. I'm only going to make
10 miners online. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As well.
10 of the Bitcoin miners. And another thing, I mean, other things worth mentioning is that we talked about this earlier, but mining is one facet. It's one dimension of what Outposts are. There's a lot more to them. And again, not everyone's going to pick up on that. Not everyone's going to care about those other uses. But, you know, we're building something that we want it to be attractive and appealing to as wide of an audience as possible. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, again, I've said this so many times, like we had pretty stringent criteria for like what we were saying these things had to accomplish. Story, IP, world building, brand, like all these things are really important for us. And I should say first and foremost, like we're building for the people who have already showed us support, that have told us what they want and what they like, and we're building for them as well. So I definitely get the perspective of someone sitting on the outside is like, why am I going to go spend, you know, X amount of ADA to buy this? My first reward, I'm going to get ADA. I get that. Like, but what I would challenge people to do is try to view these things through more than just one lens. Because for sure, not only does it already do a lot more than just that today, not only are we exploring additional reward sources, not only do they already pay out at more than one reward sources, there's 30% of all royalties from all of our collections. There's the ecosystem aspect as well. There's you know, other reward sources that are sort of in the works. But even within the ecosystem, like we're launching a new feature, a comms tower here I'll just go ahead and say this. In March, we'll be launching another major feature. We have Adventures in Derpatonia that's coming. It's right around the corner, and there's a lot of overlay between Outposts and that as well. So yeah, the plan is to continue building on these. It's not ever just going to be the one and done mining thing. But yeah, that's a challenge. I would say to anyone who's like, oh, it just doesn't seem worth it. I'd say, first of all, always buy whatever is fun for you, whatever you want, for whatever reason you want. Don't let anyone else talk you into anything. But if you're 100%. if you're looking at Outposts, then I would challenge you to look at them through more than just one lens of mining.
Yeah, everybody sees the mining thing. They say, oh, this is the payout for them. That's the base. That's all it is. Like, it's going to take me 11 years to pay back this NFT that I bought. And it's like, well, look at it from a broader perspective. Certain things you mentioned, a couple things, and I know we don't need to dive too deep into it. I'd say, but the Gold Rush account kind of gives us a little alpha over here. Talking about ordinals, BTC rallying, WMT coming back to life. What do these things have in common? Kind of a little teaser, right? For you guys, and I know you guys have bought that the Earth node from World Mobile Token a while back, and we talk about just Outposts in general. Right, of like the different structures, right? Only one of them's online at the moment. We have no clue what the other ones are going to do, but I mean, obviously people can kind of infer based on some of the posts and throughout different community sentiments. But this is kind of like almost like your blueprint to be like, okay, this is our base. Here's one thing that we're doing. Here's another structure. If you want to look at it, that way I kind of look at it sometimes, it's like, okay, Ape Society has their landmarks, right? You guys essentially with Outposts are building different landmarks for your with all these different Outposts and structures that you potentially can do. And there's things that you guys may not even know that you're going to do with these yet, that something could pivot. Like you said, you guys, the market shifts a certain way. This makes sense for us. We have the opportunity, and you guys can do that. And I love that about you guys, the way you guys have kind of like built the foundation right now.
Yeah, we've been using that phrase for a long time, to the point where I'm a little shy about using it, because I'm always like, we're laying the foundation, we're laying the groundwork. But really, there is a lot that goes into this. Again, if you are trying to build an ecosystem-based project like Ape Society, like Derps, there's always going to be a lot of that. So it is a part of it. Is always like one of the things. I don't want to talk too much about adventures, but we've been working on adventures for a long time, and we completely stopped in November or so last year and said, just scrap it and restart. It needs to be this foundational piece. It needs to be scalable. It needs to be something that serves more than one purpose. And so it is always a struggle to say, like, we have to, we're like building on top of this foundation, which is the NFT space, which is always shifting, and committing to one single direction, saying we're just going to do that thing, could be something that works for some projects. You could have picked the one specific right thing. But yeah, the approach for Derps is always going to be, we're going to be flexible. We're going to pivot. We definitely have a high level vision. We know where we're going, like at the highest level. There's a million ways to get there, and we're going to be pivoting, and sort of adapting to different paths that we think are best at getting us there. So,
going back to that trailer, I just can't wait for the TV show.
Hey,
yeah, when
Derp TV show.
And that kind of leads us to a great little transition over here to TJ. With what you guys have kind of done as far as brand building goes, right? Like the mining, aspect of it is the sustainability model, the foundation for you guys. You're not having to ask everybody for ADA every single few months to keep, raising that funding. You've got a way to sustain for a while. I'm sure there'll be stuff in the future that'll come up. Everybody needs funding, right? When you look at it that way. But when it comes to like the Web3 side of things, if you're talking about, hey, my friends, I got a project that you should look at right now. What's it called? Derp Birds. What? Like, yeah, like I'm sure you get that reaction all the time when you talk to like family, friends, things like that initially. And then
why did you say it like that? Hey, my friends.
Hey. I don't know, TJ. I've had an extra beer over here tonight. Maybe.
Hey, my friends.
Fuck you, TJ. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. No. You just threw me right over here. But anyway, no. As far as like branding and stuff goes like that, you guys have a unique IP. I think we talked about that early on with you too. It's like you guys have your own lane, like, right? There's apes, there's tons of different apes, there's tons of different dogs, cats, every other NFT that you guys could think about. But the Derp Birds is such a unique little like niche that you guys have, like kind of carved out inside the space that there's no one replicating what you guys are doing. And it feels like one of those things where we look at like an Angry Birds or things like that, where they kind of did their own thing. They weren't like, they were quirky, they were different, but it got people's attention and then eventually led to the mass success that they had. When we talk about building a project beyond just an NFT, you guys have that potential. I know we talk Yummy quite a bit too, and we look at them like that, but you guys kind of break it down really good. Can you talk about just like the branding percent? Did that ever click with you originally? Was that like, hey, we built this NFT, where do we go? Or it was like, hey, like we can build a brand here with what we got in this community that we're developing right now?
Yeah, I think it's, again, we just talked about pivoting. And what I'd say is, I think for a lot of people, well, I have a lot to say about this, but I think there are a lot of projects right now that are watching other projects, right? We could talk about Pudgy Penguins all day. And they're really showing that there's a path forward. I think Sappy Seals is kind of on a similar route. But I think a lot of projects are taking note of that and saying, oh, we should follow suit. They've basically pioneered this path. We should try to do the same thing. And so I think it's fair. I think it's a really fair thing for outsiders, for, people sitting on the sidelines to say, oh, maybe Derp's is trying to go the same path. It was recently, we've, trying to think about how much of this I can talk about, but I think we have mentioned enough in basically public forums and stuff that we have been talking with someone who has worked within the entertainment industry for well over 20 years. This person's at a particular animated series that they've been out for a very long time. And I would consider this person an advisor for the projects. Essentially, that's the role I put them in. And
Seth
when we
MacFarlane.
talk about, what's that?
Seth MacFarlane.
Exactly. I've got Seth on speed dial now. But I consider this person an advisor now. It is so clear. Like I can't tell you like how excited I get to hear this person talk about Derp Birds. And when you're in the weeds, like when you're just like in the thick of it and you're dealing with how many likes might this tweet get, and I have to plan a tweet for tomorrow, and there's this content I do all the UX work for the most part, and there's these product ideas, and we have a team of engineers. It is difficult sometimes to get out and look at what you've built from someone else's perspective. And I talked to this person who again is been within this industry for over 2 decades. And he's, he just says something, which is, he's like, Derp Birds is an entertainment brand. He's like, you guys might not recognize it as that. It may be something, I think there is a problem in the NFT space where too many of us in the space, I won't say I'm completely innocent of this either, you sort of roll your eyes. You hear a project say like, this is what we're doing, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's not fair. It's not fair that we do that really at all until a project has proven or disproven themselves otherwise. And so there is this, like, even this tweet here, putting this tweet together, I was like, you do make yourself a bit vulnerable by coming out and saying, look, this is what Derps is about. Roll your eyes, say whatever you want. We don't give a fuck, right? Like we went through a year of being completely ignored, 18 months without raising funding, like literally just like kept going, kept building. People said we couldn't do it, we did it. And I have zero doubt at all, zero doubts about where we're going with Derp Birds. The vision is crystal clear to me. Where we're going is I can see it in my mind. It's just a matter of the path that we want to take to get there. And for us, we're an entertainment brand. Everything that we've done, whether we consciously made the decision at the time to be an entertainment brand, we went out of our way to make everything as entertaining and as fun and as interactive and engaging as possible. All the way back to 2021, the incubator, the hatchery, the pred hack, the Discord invasion, the trailers that we've done. I mean, the Outpost mint last year was, not only did we do the trailers, but the mint experience itself. We put a ton of effort into that, and it's really exciting when you start to think about like, why wouldn't we be an entertainment brand? It just so happens that we're using this new medium, Web3 and NFTs, to create entertaining experiences, and we're laying our foundation, as we just talked about. We haven't been shy. Lately we've been saying more and more that cross-chain, we for sure, that's a big part of the future. We're building Derp Birds. We love Cardano, it's our home, but we're building Derp Birds. And again, Cardano is our home, but we're building Derp Birds. We want people to find Derp Birds. So we're going to go cross-chain. And then beyond that, there's nothing stopping us from going conventional, you know, entertainment route. And so, yeah, to me, it's as clear as day now. That's what we are. That's what we've been since day one. We just didn't put a label on it until recently.
Oh, damn, I'm pumped up. Holy shit. I gotta look up some Derp Birds real fast. One sec.
Dude.
Are we on the rocket ship
again? The rocket ships, hold on, we gotta pump the brakes. No, man, I think naturally it makes sense for what you guys are doing, and especially when it's not just like another one, right? When we talk about like, you know, don't get me started on the stuff over here, Tom.
Another one.
But what it is though, it really is like you guys have carved out this little niche that has essentially become its own thing. You aren't just another project, another adjective, ape, whatever, right? You guys have built a brand, and within that brand, there is a very vibrant community that's, you know, very passionate about what you guys have done. I always love it, and I think it's great because that's something for us too, even when we're doing the podcast, of like when we can reference stuff or community can bring like a joke or something in, and then that becomes part of like our lore, quote unquote, or it's something you can follow us with and you know us by. And there's a ton of stuff that you guys have references to. And even just, I mean, dude, I'll give you this. When I was logging into the Derp Birds app, I'll never forget this. We're over here going to the achievements, right? And we scroll down and, there's poop in the tubes right now. If it loads back up. But dude, I'm sitting over here looking at the Outpost thing. And you know us, we're just having some fun with some stuff. But when I saw Gang over here, I was just like, a part of me was like, is that a coincidence, or is that like, was that community influenced, or were we having fun? But it was like, like that was such a cool little moment for everybody. And I mean, like I said, is that where that came from? I got to ask you now that we have you on.
Yeah, it was around that time, you know, that meme was sort of born. And so naming the achievements, I want to be honest, I'm pretty sure I've named every achievement. I think that we've done, and so if some of them are pretty turbo cringe, but I'm just like always. I mean, our entire project is based on memes. Like we joke all the time that we need like some sort of like encyclopedia of like community memes. Like, what's the backstory on how? Because so many of our memes have evolved through multiple phases. Like that now I don't even remember what like the origin was for a particular meme. But for sure, I'm not gonna lie. I would love to tell you guys like, yeah, it definitely came from that. But it was definitely my mind as we're putting the achievements together. I just come on the show. We just talked about it, and so Gang is we'll say it's because of
Hey, no, if anything, it doesn't matter. I like it to be a little mysterious, but in my mind, it's like, hey, we were like, hey, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I know it was a part of that like time frame. So I love that. But no, not even that. Like, I know there's like the Gordo, like the beans, like there's so many other things inside of there, like Grimmy. Like I love Grimmy. Grimmy's over in our, and he's got. I mean,
that there for a second, like, you know, what is so crazy, and the reason why I wish we could sort of like embody that, like capture that into some sort of like living document or video, or is because there is so much. Why I think like you know, Derp Birds undoubtedly like has this amazing features, because it is the culture that sort of formed around it that influences the brand and where we go and we do things. The you know, we had with the original, and again I can't even remember all of the origin stories of like all of these memes, but we had Derp Birds, we had the monk traits. They were bald. That gave birth to Baldo, which is sort of this named, you know, sort of meme character that Highwind, you know, from the Derp Birds community created, and you know that went on to be an NFT collection. There's the Highwind minted the Baldo collective, and now Baldo's a part of the lore. He's a part of the story. One of the outposts, right? The second Baldo's rarest location is Baldo's Bog. You know, it's a swamp, and that and for sure that we redid the V2 Preds, and you have the Gordo face, which I don't even know how he got that name. You know, he's the prison guard, he's the warden, and people started calling him Gordo. And now you have Grimmy, who's done like this whole like spin-off, you know, sort of these pieces of art that's that revolve around Gordo. And now there's like female versions of Gordo and Baldo. There's Baldina. I don't know if Gordo has a female, you know, counterpart, like what her name is, but yeah, there's the Gordo face.
That's one thing about you guys. Your community is very strong and they're fun, and they engage with anybody who talks derp or they see a derp tweet. They all kind of just flock to it and kind of chime in with their memes and all the gifts and everything they have. You guys are a fun community to be a part of, honestly.
It's you know, we get I tweeted about this today actually about you know, there is for sure a lot of drama in this space. We could talk about that a lot, but and discourses and why there's so much drama. But I think like Derp Birds community is very passionate, and I wouldn't change it. I would not. I wouldn't change it. I'd say as long as we are, I've been clear of this on the last few announcements, like where I'm telling the community, like, look, the space is really, it's really full of drama right now. Let's try to take the high road and not take any victory laps if things are going our way. In particular, let's remember where we're at. But the passion that the Derp Birds community has, like, some people call it toxic, and I'm like, it's not toxic. Like, we love Derp Birds. Like, they fucking love Derp Birds. I fucking love Derp Birds. And like the fact that we have been through what we've been through, I think that gives us a bit of room for us to be loud and passionate about it. So
I could almost say to you guys, as far as the jokes go and memes go, you guys are very similar in that aspect to Old Money, where you guys can joke around with each other and not take offense to it in a way. 100%. You guys can make memes about each other, you can crack on each other, and no one gets offended. They just kind of meme back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you guys are very jokey, and that's just like Old Money, which both communities are very great and very strong communities.
I think love when we have to pull up your Discord, and it always is like a jump scare. When
we have to move the window.
Or not, and then all of a sudden,
dude, that's one of my favorite parts about them is you never know what you're gonna find in there, man. I agree, Dave, that maybe that's a community initiative right there, is to get like a Memepedia almost of like where everything kind of came from. So if somebody needs to reference it,
wiki.
Yeah, you get a whole wiki just set up of like, hey, if you guys are lost or you need a reference point, or you get the bot to like Memepedia it out, whatever somebody's referencing. I mean, you could do that, and that could be an easy community thing too, which I'm sure the people will love to put together, whoever, especially the people who created some of that stuff and have evolved it, because really what it's doing is it's like building out that lore essentially, but it's with the community and some of the people that have like that direct connection to it. You can't get that anywhere. Like when we talk about like NFTs being like a project, but really your guys, they're your shareholders propping that up, and they're a part from the inception of the company, which is such a unique thing in Web3, compared to like, hey, I got a CEO, I got the initial workers with us, and we're building the company up, where it's like that, and then the public sale happens years down the road, right? Well, everybody's here from that ground level up, and they're kind of building it up, and if that community supports you guys, and you guys are all a part of that, and really, like, I think, Dave, you talked about it in your recent post about like, hey, go out there, go share, go be passionate about this, because that's how we continue to grow. It's such a unique like perspective.
Piggybacking on the meme thing or meme Wikipedia thing, some of the community should come up with like a video of all like clip arts of memes with a funny voiceover of telling the story of where it began. Just kind of just reading all the memes, and anytime you want references, just watch that video.
It's easier now than ever with AI. Like one of the things that we're exploring is I don't know if you guys know this, but like we host all of our own tech, like all of our entire ecosystem. We have a server. Geek has a server and a server room at his place. For a long time, it was on a rack under his bed. Like, we made jokes about that. Like all of our Bitcoin miners are just under his bed. But we're about to upgrade. We're about to order a new server so that we can like start installing our own models, our own AI models, and start training them on what Derpatonia is. The ability to go to Derpatonia and be like, what is, like, someone to jump into Discord, for example, and say, and like basically be interacting with an AI bot and say, what's Baldo's Bog? And for it to say, Baldo's Bog is the mystical rarity location for Outposts. You can scout there in Adventures in Derpatonia. Here are the creatures that live there. By the way, these are all things that exist like in our world that you guys will see manifest in Adventures in Derpatonia. You'll be able to scout out Baldo's Bog, collect materials that craft new traits for your Derp Birds and your Preds that reflect Baldo's Bog, right? You'll know it's from Baldo's Bog, but the AI will know that. You could go to Baldo's Bog and collect these materials through Adventures in Derpatonia and craft these traits, and here are the rarity of those traits. And Baldo's Bog comes from, the name Baldo's Bog comes from a community meme, that like was like that. All those things, like, again, even on the community meme thing, like I would love if somebody would start that right now. They would start putting together all this so we could feed the model. But the model in and of itself, on the other side, I'm also like super excited about everything that we're going to be doing with. We already use it in many ways, like AI. And I don't know how we got on this topic, and we don't have to go down this route. But like to me, it's just like we have to be small. You know, we're scrappy. We're on Cardano. Like funding isn't massively abundant. We're not going to nickel and dime our community for everything we want to do. And so we have to be extremely frugal and sort of tech leaning and tech focused to be able to pull these things off. And AI, you guys didn't ask, but AI is really going to allow us to do that.
Well, I'm just looking at more derps now, because if we're getting AI derps or just AI that's been trained on, is this how Skynet happens?
AI derps.
On DerpNet?
DerpNet.
Well, dude, you talk about it too. You guys have always been like ahead of the curve. That's one thing about you guys that really, I think, stuck with us, because I know our initial conversation to you was like, I don't know about derps. That you guys were in that time period where there was just a ton of stuff minting. It was getting saturated eventually during that first 2021 window. Something called Derp Birds just did initially like stick with us, and that was, you know, a lot of people had that reaction. But when we saw the incubator launch and we were like, multi-sig mint in 2021 on Cardano, hold on, there's got to be something more to this team. Yeah, and it was just like, we're paying attention to you a little bit more.
And then the drapes.
Dude, the drapes was such a fun thing. That was like that. You should have the war on that, like that website that went live, and then the website broke because too many people were minting it.
Yep.
It was a fun little experiment because there was a ton of new ape projects coming out in the chain. You guys wanted to have some fun and kind of shit on it a little bit, and now that channel is just full of shit.
That's all that channel is.
Literally,
all that channel is.
I referenced it a lot, but the announcements, even when that day when the website broke, I don't remember specifically what happened, but I know there was an issue with the mint that day. The announcements for that and about that were just entertaining. I was laughing, literally laughing out loud, thinking with Tommy and Tom as we were trying to mint it.
Yeah, shout out to Art, our other initial co-founder, James. He's like one of my best friends. Didn't work out for him to stay on the team. We're still super tight, but he was really good in those situations.
They were great.
I'm sweating my ass off right now, just like talking to you guys. Like in those moments, like when things aren't going right, you know, I'm like, you know, like very. I feel really bad about, like, we try to provide an experience, and if it doesn't go right, you know, that it sucks. Like it feels like we don't like letting the community down.
Yeah.
And so those moments they're tough. They're really difficult. But
do your perfectionist. That's all. And that's nothing wrong with that. And like that's even itself turned into a meme for you guys. Like this some of the stuff that you go through and the way you act. Like I love that the holders and everybody inside your community is just like, it leans into that. To finalize too on like branding and stuff like that, I just wanted to bring that up because I was looking back when we were staring at your thing. You got the Stuffys thing sitting in the back. I got a Stuffy sitting up here, which we got from NFTLV. Another thing we brought up, I still have. I got to give you yours too, TJ. The card packs, things like that.
You guys, I need to hook you guys up with cards because Tommy feels like you're sort of lording over them and being like, "Oh, I got to get your cards or whatever." And
I've had them since September.
I haven't given them to him yet.
To be fair, I haven't probably seen you in like 8 months in person.
That's true. So it's been a little while. But yeah, when you talk about branding, like, dude, and I'm sure you guys have some more stuff that you guys can eventually announce with that kind of thing. Yep. But you guys have you're at the start in a sense. You guys have only just begun in a way, and that makes me excited for where we just talk NFT projects in general. It's the good ones. We always talked about like when we first started, is 99% of the NFTs are going to fail. But it's going to be those ones that carry on and break through the mold and change it up, do their own thing, that are going to survive. And, you know, we'll see where this world
have strong
goes.
Communities.
Community is a huge factor inside of that, right?
It really is. Yeah. Well, there's a lot. There's a ton more I could talk about, like on the brand thing. But I think last few things I'll throw out there is that specifically on like the physicals, like Erica, who does the plushies for the the Stuffys. I've actually taken a step back and I'm letting Krista, who she literally I just so happen to have this right here. Yesterday she was working with Erica. They were exchanging. Erica was sending us sort of like concepts for the I won't say, well, you guys will know when you see this what it's for. Yeah. But she was sending us sort of pretty much a completed sort of, I would say, like prototype of the next one. And despite being a designer, I'm not good at providing feedback. Like, and plus my head's like, I'm just pulled in so many directions. And so Krista jumped in and she's like, and now I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked what's going to turn out, because it's going to look exactly like Krista's sketch here that she put together to try to give Erica feedback. So it's going to look exactly like that.
I love it. Let me get one of those.
Which is just perfect. That really represents So yeah, you guys will know now that Derp Ape, we're gonna do Derp Ape Stuffies for a while. We're gonna do a round of those. But Stuffies are cool. Like, I'm super stoked. We have another. I can't give it away, but we do have another physical, sort of fungible stuff, as we would call it, like another physical sort of thing that we're working on right now. That I hope within the next few months we'll be ready to announce. And then more on the brand development side is we haven't announced it, but I'd say by, I'm trying to think who on the team is going to be pissed off at me for saying this, but I'm thinking that we probably will lean into a rebrand probably mid of this year or some. And I don't want to give it away. I think a lot of people in the Derp Birds community will probably put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly on where we're going with it. But yeah, we're going to be leaning a bit into a rebrand. It's definitely going to maintain sort of that essence of Derp, right? Like we if anything, we want to double down on what makes Derp Birds unique. There are a lot of projects who were trying to go the brand route who are really softening their brand. They want to be mostly kid centric, like Pudgy Penguin. And I shouldn't say kid centric. Pudgy Penguins are attractive to everyone. Same with like Yumi, Arus and everything. But we're not that. We're okay with being raunchy and a little more, lowbrow. And so we're going to lean into that, and we want to rebrand in a way that allows us to lean into that, embrace that, not run away from it, not try to soften the brand in any way. But we're going to be doing 2 things. I that we haven't talked about it all yet. We haven't announced for the summer that are going to see us. The goal is to do these things to further the ability for people to view us as an entertainment brand. And so we have a couple things that, again, I can't say what they are, but I'm extremely excited. I don't think anyone would see these things coming. And they're the type of thing that, again, what I hope comes from it is that people can see, like, okay, yeah, that's what Derps is about. Is they're not just JPEGs on the Cardano blockchain. They're a lot more than that. They're not just mining. That's a small thing in comparison to everything that we're doing. But yeah, I'm couldn't be more excited. I'll have to come back here in like a month or something to talk about some of the stuff that will rolled out by then. But
also Funkos or comic books.
Hey,
I'm not saying
TJ likes to sneak some little alpha at everybody over here. No, man, I honestly, that's way more than I think I could be like fathom right now. Like, I'm so focused on, like, everybody's focused in the mining realm right now that there's so much more stuff I know you guys are working on, and it's cool to hear about that directly from you. We appreciate you sharing, just kind of a little insight on what you guys are working on. And of course, when that rocket ship's primed and ready to go, you know where to go. That we got the launch pad for you guys over here on the channel to go ahead and showcase it. But dude, yeah, I mean, just to kind of in summary for all this stuff, I mean, it's great that you guys, from where you started, like you said, down all the way to the teens and a floor price, to essentially rising to the top up here, and building a brand, finding it and doing it in your own way. That's one thing that you guys have always done. You guys have always been unique. You've always stayed true to yourselves. You haven't really worried about what other people are doing and just focused on yourselves. And in turn, that's been what's been successful for you. And we truly appreciate that about you. On top of that, man, you're one of the hardest working guys that we know inside the space, man. Like you said, you work a full-time job on top of doing this, and the fact that you guys are as successful as you are, it's just a testament to that. So, and like you said, the whole team, I didn't realize there was as big of a team behind that as well. So shout out to everybody else behind you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for, soon we'll be talking a bit more about the team, but yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for all the coverage, right? Like you guys you accurately represent Derps, I think, and I appreciate all the, and I know the Derp Birds community does as well. Like they're gonna be stoked for the podcast, so I appreciate it.
Well, it's like we mentioned in the beginning. I mean, one of the things that's our favor is when you guys show up for the live streams, the community shows up, and that's what gets us pumped. It's like you kind of ask how we keep doing this is, we've said at plenty of shows where we would be doing this pretty much anyway. I mean, as far as within Cardano, trading NFTs, it's great to be able to get to make content in this space. And if it kind of didn't have the support that we get early on, we probably would have stopped at least making the content part. But because people like to show up and hang out, and especially the Derp community, it's pretty much why we keep going.
Dude, 100%. Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, when we talk about broad, like, overview of things that we were going to talk about, I mean, essentially you guys are doing a little bit of everything in that sense, and it kind of fits into what you're doing. So if you guys, I guess this podcast essentially has been Derp taking over in a way.
And cover. I'm happy about it still. It's not a problem.
Yeah, and I'm not mad about that over here. Because I thought we were talking about it before. We were like usually the last week of our podcast on the month, we usually skip to do a game night on a Thursday. But we were like, Dave's, you know what? When I realized we scheduled, we were like, we'll push game night to next week. Yeah. So we wanted to have you on this week. So I'm glad we got a chance to do this, dude, because it's been long overdue. And we'll definitely have to get you on for a live stream when you guys are ready to go ahead and talk, because obviously it sounds like you guys are working on a lot of different things. And I'm excited. I know we're all excited over here. I'm sure their community, like you said, they're listening to this and they're like, okay, there's some good little info snuck inside of here.
There's some things that probably went over our head even.
I mean, I for sure, I've a few of the things I said here at the end, like we haven't even dropped any hints about, so it'll definitely be some good alpha for the.
They're gonna have to listen though. That's what I'm saying. We won't necessarily timestamp all this stuff, so they're gonna have to actually dive in and listen.
We'll have to make it to the end.
There you go. That's the thing. Speaking of the end, there's a thing where we call wrapping it up on the back end, and I think you just plugged me perfect for that right there. Over on the channel.
I was expecting the music to kick in, actually,
dude.